Hey there everybody, and welcome back. For those of you that got a Nintendo Switch OLED, standard model, or Lite recently, or maybe you've had one and you're trying to find the best free downloadable games, stay tuned, I'm going to cover my top 10 picks in this video. Now for games to make this list, they have to be free downloadable games from the Nintendo eShop, and on top of that, they have to be full games. So we're not covering demos or trials. You have to be able to download this game and jump straight in without paying any money or anything like that. Now, some of these games will have downloadable content you can pay for, but the games themselves and the gameplay for the most part is free. Now, I'm going to be covering my top picks from my favorite to least favorite, so we're going to start with number 1 and go to number 10. Now, before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe, check out the channel for new content, and let's go ahead and jump into pick number 1. All right, so I'm going to choose something a little bit less than traditional for the first slot here, so this is going to be Super Kirby Clash. Some of the other games, so the top picks 2 through 10 are going to be some more traditional games you've probably heard of, but I want to pick something that is more of the Nintendo Switch style. So this again is Super Kirby Clash. You'll see you literally just started the game up after downloading it. So we're just going to show you what the gameplay looks like, choosing all the default options, so you can choose your weapon, your role, your armor, etc. But basically, we're just going to choose default, just go through and hit A on everything. And then you'll see we can just hit down to go back. And we're just going to click set off and click yes to set off on the quest. So I have myself and that teammate that's already been established. And then it gives you the option to show what the menu options are. So you'll see you can attack, guard, and jump. So we will go ahead and skip through. So you use your left stick to kind of walk around. A is jump. And then if you're Kirby, which in this case, pretty sure you have to be, you can hold A to float up, and then B releases that air. And then you'll see that we can use B to go ahead and start attacking. And then we can jump away and using A. So there's, I guess you would say, kind of like a storyline for this. And it gives you the ability to have that second teammate, which looks like AI in this case, or a bot. But we'll continue to just do the basic attacks here and just kind of show you what this looks like. So again, this feels like more of a Nintendo type of game, so to speak, instead of all of the traditional first-person shooters and things of that nature, especially if that's not exactly your style. So we'll just kind of walk through beating this one, and then you'll see it says we have power tablets, what those actually do, and then it gives you the option. So I'm just clicking A to go through to show you what the gameplay looks like. But I feel like this kind of securely lands in the top spot if you're looking for a free Nintendo Switch style game instead of a bunch of traditional first-person shooters that may not necessarily be the best option. So it's definitely a fun game. I would highly recommend checking it out. It doesn't take a ton of space. I think I was able to download this in, I want to say, between like 2 and 10 minutes. So it didn't take very long at all to download or load. And again, all of the top 10 picks are able to fit on a 256 gig micro SD card without really taking up too much space. I have quite a bit of space left. I don't even think I've used up a quarter of it. If I have, no more than like a third or so. So we'll go ahead and jump into pick number 2. All right, so coming in at number 2, although it is very close to number 1, and I think it really just boils down to personal preference, we have Apex Legends. I feel like this is becoming an increasingly popular game, just like Fortnite. Now, this is another first-person shooter style game, so I have this loaded up for the first time. We'll drop into the training in just a second, but I just want to walk you through the menu options. So you start out in your play dashboard, and in the bottom right, you can choose between these different options, and then they have the Play Raiders event, which is the first screen, at least at the time of filming this video. Up at the top, you can click on Club, which you unlock at level 10. And you'll see you also have all of the legends. So these are basically the different characters in the game. You have your loadout here, so you can see the different types of weapons that are options. And then you have your game customization menu. And then you have your store, where just like in Fortnite, you can actually pay to purchase things in the game, but it's not required. So what we're going to do is we're just going to jump into the training mode really quickly. So you'll see you have to complete training mode to unlock game modes. So we'll just click Y to say that we're ready, and then we will load up training. So this is your firing range. I'm not going to go through the entire training. I just kind of want to get you to have a feel for what the game's like. So these are all default settings. I'll let the game play audio in the background just so you can kind of hear and see what's happening. But you'll see you use the left stick to walk around, right stick to view different things, and then they'll give you your pretty traditional walkthrough. So you have a checklist here of the different things that you need to do. So you'll see you have to sprint, you have to jump, and you'll walk through the checklist to actually complete those specific aspects of training, so to speak. So you'll see we've been sliding down, and then you're going to drop into this training range where you can pick up weapons and fire at different dummy items. So you can see that the graphics are pretty good. It's a really responsive game, and considering it's free, I feel like this definitely wins its place in second place. Again, depending on personal preference, I think that's really the only thing that breaks this up between this and Fortnite. So I would love to hear your thoughts, or if maybe you think there's something that should be in first or second place instead, drop them in the comments below, and let's go ahead and jump into game number 3. All right, so we're going to take a break from first-person shooters, and we're going to cover Asphalt Legends 9. So essentially, if you're wanting more of like a racing-style game, this is a free pick in the Nintendo shop, and you can pick it up. It's relatively small download size, so I'm able to fit all of my top 10 games on a 256 gig micro SD card with plenty of space left over. So we're not going to go through too much in this game, just want to get you to have a feel for the gameplay itself. So this is the main menu. It drops you in after you've gone through the initial training. So we'll just click on play real quick just to kind of walk you through a sample game. So we'll just choose, I'm just going to click A through all of these menus, and we're just going to jump into a random game real quick. But this has a pretty cool storyline. The training itself was actually really cool. The graphics for this were just incredible. I feel like typically if you're wanting to get like a gaming computer, the racing games and just things that require graphics to render very, very quickly tend to be more demanding, although not always the case. But I've noticed that the Switch handles this very well. It seems very responsive. The controllers or the Joy-Cons, they'll vibrate, so you get that feedback, which is kind of cool. So you'll see you're going to use your right stick to drive, and it'll drop you in the game. So you're going to hold the right trigger, at least for default, and essentially just drive. It'll walk you through how to drift. So you'll see that you're going to essentially apply the brake and steer left. So it's pretty typical there. But you actually have to do it in order to go through that screen and then walk up to whatever's next. So you'll see it's pretty responsive. So I'm just going to kind of drive back and forth a little bit and run into a couple of things. So you'll be able to drift through different corners, and you'll see that it'll spray water on the screen if you run into something. So it's just, they did a really good job with the graphics here. And I'm sure in a minute we'll run through the options for essentially a boost, but you can see again, we'll just drift casually. The graphics are great. It's not having any hiccups or anything like that. It doesn't really seem to struggle at all. So it's a really, really cool racing game. I just feel like it's a great option, especially considering it's completely free. So I think this definitely wins its place in third. And let's go ahead and jump into pick number 4. All right, so coming in at number 4, we have Rogue Company. So this is, I don't want to call it the main menu, but we'll just say the loading or splash screen. You hit A and it'll log you in, which doesn't take too long. And then this is another first-person style shooter game, and part of the reason I'm picking so many of these is I enjoy first-person shooter games personally, but also the gameplay on these is really good. I mean, you're getting the option to play with other players online, which I feel like leads to a more expansive experience, if that makes sense. So the gameplay is always different because you're always playing with different people, and you also have tons of other options and customizations, and just I feel like it's a lot more complex of a game, so you're getting more bang for your buck, essentially. So this is your main menu. You have your home, your rogues on the next screen over, which you use the bumpers to navigate. Then we have weapons, battle pass, profile, and shop. So we'll just go back over to the home screen and just jump straight into a game. So we basically just click strikeout and click play. Now, one thing you'll notice about this game is it doesn't have that cursor like some of the others have. The boxes are just highlighted, so you kind of just move the left stick around. And you can change the controller layout, I'm sure. I personally like the default controls for this. So you'll see it takes anywhere from 5 to 20 seconds to search for and find a game. Then it'll load the picture of the map of the game that we're actually dropping into. So it'll show you the progress up here. It'll say joining match. And then this is where we will get the picture of the map, the name of the map, these little helpful tips down here in the bottom, and then just the loading text right here. So you'll basically just wait, I would say probably another 10 to 20 seconds or so. And this is where I'm assuming the map's being loaded, other players are joining. Then you'll have about 40 seconds or so to pick your rogue and wait on your other teammates and the opposing team to pick their rogues, and then it will start. So you'll see timer starts at about 39 seconds. So we'll choose a rogue, and I'll just refocus here. So we'll just select the first person, and we'll click Y to select them. And you'll see it'll, basically you're just waiting on the other teammates. So once these two people have picked, it'll allow you to actually join in. I think the match will start a little bit sooner if everyone picks their rogue, including the opposing team. I'm not quite sure, but it just seems like the majority of the waiting time is just waiting on other people to actually pick their player before starting. And then once this is chosen, you'll have the kind of like the entry video to the game itself. So one of the cool things about this game is you'll see all the rogues that have been chosen here, and then it'll show all the rogues on the actual team. So it will have each of these people, we'll refocus, but basically all these people will walk in together. So you'll see the different team members. It'll show a close-up of each one, and then it'll show the Rogue Company logo, and then you're ready to jump straight into the game. So if I'm not mistaken, every one of these games for Strikeout, it appears that you all drop in from some kind of a plane. You drop into the map itself, and then you can kind of walk around. So I'm not going to get too much into the game. I just want you to see what it's like once you've actually started playing. So I'll walk around a little bit, and then we'll just go ahead and jump into the next game. So I will say typically if you land outside of the map, for example, if you see I'm on top of a building right now, if you don't get back in the map within 4 to 5 seconds, it'll essentially have you show up in a different area. It'll pick a place for you and have you essentially land there, so to speak. So you can see when you walk around, you have your left stick as the default to walk, and right stick will look around. Left trigger and right trigger are your typical aim and shoot respectively. And you have your mini map at the top, so you'll see that we can just essentially walk around. You'll be able to shoot just like you would in any other game. And that's honestly all that there is to it. So pretty responsive gameplay overall. I mean, I don't really feel like there's any lag when I'm playing. And one thing that I really like is just how big the maps are and how much detail is put into them. So you have a lot of space to walk around with different teammates, and I just think that the gameplay overall is great. So I think this definitely is an awesome game worth checking out. And again, it lands in number 4 on the list for top 10 free picks for the Nintendo Switch. Let's go ahead and jump into number 5. All right, so number 5 may seem a little random compared to some of the others, but I will say this game, it's not as expansive. You don't have these massive maps, and it's a relatively simple and somewhat repetitive game, but I will say Rocket League definitely has its way of just kind of sucking you in sometimes. So if you press left and right bumpers to start, you'll get your news updates. We can just skip through. So here you have your car, and we'll just click play, casual, and 2v2. And I've noticed that this game actually carried over when I was playing on my Xbox One, and then I started playing on the Switch. It carried over the account, so I had the same car with all the modifications, etc. But you'll have the ability to play multiplayer here. Again, it doesn't have these massive expansive maps, but something about the game just makes it really, really easy to play. It's not really complicated, and it has this really unique fun factor to it. So you'll see it finds and puts you in a map relatively quickly. So you'll see the map load just like many other games. You'll have your little loading bar down here, or just loading text, name of the map. I just picked a 2v2 game, and then it just drops you straight in. So we're going to hold the right trigger, and then typically, so you land over these little yellow things here to boost, and your goal is essentially just to get this ball into the opposing team's goal. So you'll be able to press B to, I guess you would call it jumping. It's a car, so it's a little bit difficult to decide what it is. And then A will allow you to boost. So I'm not actually trying to do anything right now, just kind of showing you what it's like driving around. And I will say this is a fun game if you put it on a computer monitor or on a TV or anything like that. Just seeing this gameplay on a larger screen is great. But on the Switch screen, it's great as well. So as you can see, you're basically just trying to get the ball into the opposing team's goal. When you do, the ball blows up, and then the new round starts. So that's really all that there is to it. Again, as you can see, it's a very, very simple game, but graphics are great. It's very responsive. So I think that this definitely wins its place in spot number 5. Now let's go ahead and jump on to top pick number 6. All right, so number 6 on the list is Warframe. So we have essentially just selected this from the home page. It checks for updates or something along those lines, gives you the option to press A to play, and then you'll see the Warframe logo. So this has a similar look and feel as far as the gameplay is concerned to many other first-person shooters out there, in that you kind of walk around. The feel is similar. So you're running around, you're going to, instead of shooting guns, you have, I guess, what would loosely be considered powers. So the Warframes are these people with different, I guess the best way to describe it would be characteristics within the game. So once this loads, I'll show you what those look like. I do want to note, with most of these free games, the loading time's not terrible. I mean, to get in a game from the home screen of the Switch, you're probably looking at about maybe 45 seconds or so, maybe upwards to a minute and a half. Now, if you want to skip the cinematic, you press B and A to confirm. And here are the Warframes. So here's Excalibur. You'll see down at the bottom, Excalibur has slash dash, radial blind, radial javelin, and exalted blade. So we can click on any of these, but we'll just go with Mag for now. So Mag has pull, magnetize, polarize, and crush. So we will just click Y to confirm, and it's going to drop us into the game itself. We'll hit B and A to skip the cinematic, and then it lets you walk around. So this is what I mean when I say there's not much of a tutorial feel. You're basically just walking straight through enemies, and they're attacking you, and it's telling you what to do. So you press right bumper and B, and it will attack. So that is your attack from the previous menu. So you'll see we have, if we just use the right bumper, it pulls enemies towards you, and right bumper and B is essentially your way. So you can see I just pulled all of them towards me, and it shows Warframe power at the bottom. And then if you press B, it'll allow you to jump, and if you press B twice, it does this flip in the air, kind of like a double jump. So as you can see, the gameplay overall, it feels pretty good. I mean, it doesn't seem like there are as many menus and different options within the game's home screen. But again, when you're looking at a free game, there's only so much you can do or say. So we have this pretty decent sized map. You're basically running around what looks like less of a multiplayer game and more of just a single player running through your own storyline. So you have this, what looks like a waypoint that you're supposed to run to and kind of battle your way through, and your little mini map up top. So there's really not much to it. And I will say, on the screen from the camera, it does look a lot more blue than I think the game itself actually is. But I will say, again, I think this is a fair pick for 6th place. It's still got a solid feel to it, very decent sized maps, and for something that's completely free, I think it's definitely worth checking out. If you have any questions about this, drop them in the comment box below about any of these games, or maybe if you feel like something is a better fit for replacing one of these, then drop them in the comment box below, and let's go ahead and jump into game or pick number 7. All right, so coming in at number 7, I feel like it wouldn't be a Switch game review without at least one Pokemon game. So we are going to go ahead and load up Pokemon Unite. Now, I will tell you in advance, this is definitely not going to get you the same gameplay or experience as the full-price Pokemon games out there, but it's definitely an interesting game to play. So we'll go ahead and jump straight in, load the game up. And this one's pretty simple, so it's not... it's designed to be what looks like more of a traditional multiplayer, almost like a sport. So the concept from what I've seen is you have a team of multiple Pokemon. You have one, let's just say Charizard, for example, and you go battle other Pokemon. And when you win, you pick up energy, which you take and essentially score. And that's how you're actually getting points in the game. So we'll just click Unite Battle because there's not too many menu options. When you load this game up for the first time, you can customize your trainer and do things like that. But we're just going to load up the gameplay itself because I feel like that's what most people probably want to see. When you hit ready, you'll see you have what looks like a 30-second timer, so everyone can hit ready. Then you'll get to this screen where you choose the Pokemon that you actually want to play with. So we can pick any of the ones down here, but let's just go with Charizard since I used him as an example already. And then we will essentially just wait now for the timer to go down. I think this gets sped up a little bit if everyone chooses their Pokemon a little bit sooner, but as I'm sure everyone's aware, not everyone takes all of that time, or not everyone does it as quickly. So I will say that down here you have the option to customize the Pokemon with the Hollowware. However, I don't have anything right now, so I'm just playing with Charizard as is. And then once that timer goes down, we'll see what the next screen looks like. So the idea here is you'll be dropped into a map where essentially you're just going to be battling other Pokemon. The controls are relatively simple. As you deal more damage, you get more, you like level up, learn new attacks, and get the ability to use larger attacks. So let's just say for every 5 basic attacks you use, you'll have the ability to then use a larger scale attack. And those aren't realistic numbers, it's just kind of an example. So at this point, we're just waiting on this screen to go through. You'll see your timer. And I'll have the sound playing a little bit in the background, although you might not be able to hear it as well. So when you want to attack, for example, I'm going to press A. You'll see this little blue circle that appears. So that blue circle, you actually don't have to move if you are just attacking. It'll move you closer to the Pokemon that you're actually battling. And you'll see you picked up some of that energy here. Now, if you take any damage, as you can see, you can go here and essentially that will help to bring this little health bar, so to speak, back up to full. So there's one for both teams, if I'm not mistaken. We're just going to go over here and we'll score with that energy that we just picked up. So you jump in here and you hold X and it will allow you to score. And then as you see, we'll take damage from other players. So I'm just going to jump into that little healing zone and show you what that looks like. And then you'll see that health bar just slowly goes back up. Now, I will note that, again, if you're dealing damage, if you just keep pressing A, that's just your basic attack, it will keep you walking closer to people, and then you can just jump back in this zone, and that health bar will go back up. Now, there's other attacks down here that you can do. So you'll see ZR, R, those fill up. So you can't do those right away. You have to do some basic attacks in order to actually be able to do those. And then you'll see we just did, let's see, I believe it was the fire spin. And then you also have... Let's see. So we'll do that one more time just so you can kind of see what it looks like. So that was the fire spin as opposed to the basic attack. So you'll see that we have the option to do those, but we can't do them now. So we have to wait for this bar to load, and then we get the ability to do that attack again. And then as you take damage, you just jump back in here, and that little health indicator will go back up. So that's really all that there is to the gameplay itself. Now, it's a much bigger map. You can see the mini map up here. There's a lot going on, but that's the map itself and the idea behind the gameplay. So again, not as exciting as the full-fledged Pokemon games, but again, it is a free game and it's really interesting to see. So you could just kind of see what the gameplay looks like and just kind of see how it looks to battle. But there is also a lot going on. So you are, as you can tell, you'll see multiple players randomly appear at the same time. So it's more of like a strategy / sport almost, but it's an interesting game to play. So I would recommend, again, it's a free game. Check it out, see if it's something you're interested in. And let's go ahead and go to pick number 8. All right, so top pick number 8 for free games for the Switch is Dauntless. So we will walk you through or I will walk you through what this looks like. So we're just going to load the game data. So like I said, I'm trying to load all of these games from their main screens, so to speak. So we will wait on this to load up. It's usually pretty quick. Now, the reason that this one's a little bit lower down, I feel like the top picks, for example, let's just say Fortnite is number 1. There are just so many options, and I just feel like you're getting so much for a free game. Games like this, although the gameplay is really fun and it's an interesting game, there's not as much to it. So the further we're going down the list, the more simple the games get. Some of them may not necessarily be multiplayer, although it doesn't have to be multiplayer to go higher up on this list. So essentially for this game, for example, you'll see it will probably remind you of several other games that you've played, but you're kind of walking around in this world, so to speak. One thing I will say is, I don't know, I don't really want to say that it's laggy, but it just, when you're first landing in, it feels a little, I guess clunky would be the best way to describe it. But you essentially can walk around, you can interact and basically just do whatever it is you're interested in doing. So you have a couple of different controls. So you can kind of walk around and see what your options are. So you have party invites, like your social options up top. And then you'll see, like I said, we can kind of go around. So we're going to hold X to interact, or B to interact, sorry. So you'll see Slayer's Path. You're ready to set out on the Slayer's Path. You have the reward. So you click A and it will say completed. We'll hold B to continue. And then you'll see what these typical interactions look like. So it'll give you the option to unlock different things. So let's see if we can see what this looks like. So you'll see when you're communicating with these people, what these objectives look like. So you'll see your journey as a Slayer begins, learn to hunt, slay, and survive. So this node has been unlocked. And then you'll see Slayer's Path node unlocked. So this is essentially what we've just unlocked. So you can see what that looks like. So we're going to unlock this. And then you'll see Slayer's Path unlocked. So you'll see chart a route to the Silent Grove, etc., etc. So you'll see that we've unlocked potential. And then he'll tell you to get the, so it says Trainer Rosk will get the signal that a new recruit's ready to train. Well done. And then main quest completed. And then you have the option to see the trainer at the training grounds. So to travel to Trainer Rosk, complete the conversation, then press the plus to reach the hunting map. So we're just going to finish this up. So this game's a little bit more expansive, and it looks like basically you're walking around here picking up different objectives and different things to do. So we're going to press the plus button. You'll see we have a couple of options here. So if we just click on Hunt, let's just go to the training grounds. And then we can click Go Now. So it seems like this is this world, so to speak, where you're landing in it and you have the option to go talk to these different people, get different objectives. So it's a similar concept to some other games out there. And then we open up our map and we can choose where to go and what to do next. So again, pretty cool concept for a game. Very, very unique. The only thing I think is a little irritating is really just that sometimes it seems a little clunky, but that could also be if you're interacting with people online or tons of other things. So I wouldn't hold that against the game itself. So you'll see we've dropped in here. So we'll just kind of walk around and show you what the gameplay looks like Solid feel overall. You have the option to pick up different weapons, so we'll pick up the war pike. And then you'll see when you walk around, you can interact with these other people and kind of watch what these people are doing. So you'll see we can hit Y and deal damage to different objects. So when we're pressing Y, you'll see what we're doing, and it can bring out, like we'll just call rewards or things that you can use in the game. So Y gives you the option to essentially attack with that weapon that you picked up, and there were several others from where we were in the beginning. And this is just a training ground. So you're pretty much just walking around, left stick to navigate, right stick to look, and you can basically just see what's going on out here. So it's a pretty decent sized map. Gameplay is pretty solid overall. I will say I don't think that the graphics aren't terrible. I don't think that they're as good as some of the other games that we've played, but it's honestly not far off. So overall, I think that this is a pretty enjoyable gaming experience, but it's not going to be as action-packed as some of the others because, as you can tell, you don't just drop straight into matchmaking or the story, for example. You have more options and different things you can do, but some people really, really enjoy that. So I thought that this one was definitely worth mentioning. So now that we've covered pick number 8, let's go to our 9th pick on the list for top free games for the Nintendo Switch. All right, so we are going into number 9, which is Retrograde Arena. So we're at the home screen. You have player stats, drone workshop, and start game. And then down here, new map modes and map DLC. So let's just go into start game, and we'll just jump into the tutorial just to show you the basic controls. Now, this is a pretty simple game. It's a really interesting game to play, though. It's somewhat of a strategy game. So you'll see that you go over these squares to move the blocks that are in the way. So for example, you'll see that this right here was a door and it really just opens it. The movement is a little interesting. So you have what's almost like a jet that's propelling you. So when you stop moving, for example, your player continues to glide. You'll see red blocks are death, blue is safe, and yellow is bouncy. So I'll show you what that means. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you hit a yellow block, it pushes you off. If you hit a blue block, really nothing happens. And then if you hit a red block, you basically just kind of explode. So we'll jump in between the yellow and blue, kind of bounce between them. You'll see you also have these blocks which you can interact with and kind of push around. And then we will show you, you can actually shoot as well. So the bullets can bounce off of walls. It looks like they bounce 2 to 3 times before they disappear. And you can see that they actually interact with you as well. So they can, if you shoot straight ahead and it bounces back, it can knock you around. And we will slide over this to open this door. And if you want to change your direction or aiming, you can do so with this right stick here. And you go over this to change weapons. So now when we hold, you'll get these 2 lines and it charges and shoots. So when we go into this room, we'll interact with these little, I'm assuming what are bots. So you can basically just continue to shoot. And as you can tell, there's a lot going on this screen. But it's kind of an interesting game to play. So it reminds me of, honestly, a couple of different games out there. But it's a simple game to play, but it's a fun game to play. And as you can tell, there's a lot going on. So, for example, you just have to make sure not to lose sight of, for example, if you hit these red blocks, then your player blows up. So it's a little bit of pushing people around into different corners, bouncing bullets, just playing a little bit more strategically. Also trying to figure out what your player is or where your player is, because as you can tell, at times there can be a lot going on in a given screen. But it's a really interesting and unique game. So I would definitely recommend giving this a chance if you decide, you know what, this looks like it's something that's interesting. But I think that this secures that 9th spot just because there's not as much going on. But it is a pretty cool game, and it has such a unique look and feel to it. And there is a good bit of feedback from the controllers, so when there's a lot of bullets flying around, you can feel that vibration in the Joy-Con controllers. So overall, it's a pretty enjoyable gaming experience. So that wraps up game number 9. So let's go ahead and finish up this review with the 10th pick on the list of top 10 games that are completely free for the Nintendo Switch. All right, so closing out this list with number 10, we have World of Tanks Blitz. So this is a much different game from some of the others that we've been looking into. So this is it's hard to explain, so we can just kind of jump into it. So basically, if you could imagine a first-person shooter game, except you're a tank going up against other tanks. So it's not as much of a strategy game in some senses, although in some it is. Um, it it's definitely an acquired taste. So basically, when you load up the game, you have this cursor just like many others. You'll see you have these different rewards that you can make, but you'll see we have essentially this tank here. So we're just going to go straight up and we're just going to jump straight into a battle. You'll see it doesn't take too long. Just like all the others, you can typically get into a game pretty quickly. And it's what you'd essentially expect. So it's almost like your traditional first-person shooter, but swap out a person running around with a full-fledged tank. Now, there is somewhat of a strategy piece to it because you don't just get to shoot as much and as frequently as you want. So I'll show you what I mean. So when the battle starts, as you can see, they'll give you this little menu or controller to show you. So for example, if you want to turn, you have to turn and then drive. It doesn't allow you to do the really, really sharp hairpin turns. So you have to think about that a little bit, and you can kind of see the arrows that show where your player is going. And then if you wanted to shoot, then we would hit the right trigger. So you'll see I shot once, but if I hit right trigger again, nothing's happening. There's a little loading bar here, which shows that you now have another bullet or missile, so to speak, to use. So the idea is you have all these options. So we're going to shoot again. You can see that bar loads. There is a little bit of a lag from getting your cursor where it needs to be. So you can see it's this little green arrow, and there's a little bit of a lag, but that's intentional because, as you can tell, that the tank doesn't aim immediately. It's not like a person where wherever the gun is, it's instantly ready to be fired. So again, it's a little bit more of an acquired taste. It's a little bit more difficult to get used to the controls because, again, you have to be a little bit more strategic about how you actually drive this because it's a tank. So it's not something that's as easy to maneuver. But once you get that down, it's a pretty interesting game to play. It's a little bit different than many of the others, and the controls are relatively easy to grasp. So it's an interesting thing to look into, and as you can tell, you can hit right and left triggers to kind of zoom in and see all of these other tanks, and then you can hit right and left trigger to zoom out, and it's just giving us more of these insights here. So that's a pretty cool thing to see. So it's definitely interesting to actually get the chance to play. I would recommend taking a look. Again, it's not what I would say is my favorite pick, but it's an interesting game, and I'm just trying to give some variety to these games, so we're not just only picking games that are like a Pokemon game or first-person shooters, but to make it a little different. So I hope this video was helpful, and we're going to go ahead and cover the bonus content that I mentioned in the beginning right now.